Welcome back to Pictish Shorts, episode 8. Pictish Shorts is the Pictish Art Society's podcast with some simple Pictish questions and often very complicated answers. Now, our guest today is John Borland, well known to most of us. John is formerly of the Royal Commission on the Ancient and Historical Monuments of Scotland and latterly of Historic Environment Scotland, where he was the Measured Survey Manager. Now, John was also president of the Pictish Art Society for more years than he or I can remember, where he also edited the newsletter and arranged the annual conference. But his real legacy for me is the treasury of detailed measure drawings that adorn so many of the important publications on Pictish art and history. So welcome, John. And now you're retired. I'll bet you're busier than ever. Are you still drawing?
Off and on, yeah. I did a little bit of work for HES last year, drawing up finished drawings of Swinnow Stone and also the Baroque and Cross. And then I did some further work on the Swinnow drawings for Jane Geddis's big article on the stone that went into PSAS, published last year also. Doing a little bit of work off and on some of the caves in Fife, which I surveyed prior to retirement. So just doing a little bit more work on those when the notion takes me.
Fantastic. Because, John, we are indebted to you. Your drawings are everyone's go-to reference. And often I'm looking at something like a small area of a cross slab and I see something interesting. My first thought is always, what did John see here? So listen, let's just crack it right into it. First question is, what first got you interested in the Picts?
Well, for me, it was quite a gradual journey. It would start, I think, in early childhood with a deep interest in history, not just names and dates, but the physical evidence of it. What I would now know to call the historic built environment, but nobody called it that in 1965, or at least nobody around me. And importantly for me was the concept of drawing this evidence. Family picnics to Dundonald Castle or Crossraguel Abbey, which were close to home. My mum and dad would put a tartan rug or a tartan blanket on the ground and sit and drink tea out of a thermos flask, and I'd be off with a sketchbook drawing a gatehouse or a tower or a tracery window or something like that. By the time I was in art college, I had a copy of George Bain's book on Celtic art, and I was incorporating some of those patterns and motifs into my work. And then the final step would be I had the great good fortune, 1984, to get a job with the drawing office, the survey section of the Royal Commission. And you could not invent a better job, a better fit for me, because I spent 36 years travelling the length and breadth of Scotland, all the islands, recording every type of monument, prehistoric right the way up to Second World War and Cold War remains. But importantly, also within that would be sculptured stone. Within a few years of joining, we embarked on a landscape survey of northeast Perthshire, and that was my first opportunity to draw Pictish things. The little pillar with the symbol and the cross at Aelith, and the Brewston symbol stone. Those are my first forays into it. To be honest, I was hooked. I loved it. They were fascinating. And shortly when we completed Northeast Perth, we moved into Southeast Perthshire. And of course, that meant Beagle. And by that time, I was totally immersed in the notion. It was around about that time that I joined the Pictish Art Society. And from there, it just cascaded.
Fantastic. It's such a good question. And, you know, it's a different question when you ask it of someone who comes from, say, California.
Mm. Yeah.
You know, they're just not been brought up around Pictish sculpture.
No.
Whereas for you and I, you grew up around this kind of stuff, but then
Yes.
there's a moment where it becomes the professional thing because
Yes.
you're so immersed in it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Next question is, what is the most fascinating thing you find about the Picts now?
I think I'm probably going to give an answer that's probably been a very consistent one from all your speakers, and that is that we're in such a rich golden period for Pictish studies compared to, I suppose, when I first was interested in the subject, when I first bought George Bain's book back in that would be the mid to late 1970s. Then I think it was, in terms of its academic standing, it was probably a little bit niche. One or two sort of scholars immersed in it, and but they encouraged a whole new generation to take up the subject, and some of them went into teaching, and they've encouraged a new generation, and so now we have this multiple generations of, from the sort of the great wisdom of people who've been studying it back in the latter half of the 20th century, right up to new graduates coming out now, and it's just such a wealth of knowledge, research, theory, and also, of course, now with very good, modern, reliable archaeological evidence coming to light, not solely by Gordon Noble, but largely by him and his team. The great thing about that, for me, is that this evidence that's coming out, the physical evidence, is helping to ground the Picts. Because of the enigma of their symbols, they themselves became enigmatic, and they were a little bit other, a little bit different. There must have been something weird about them. Oh, where did they come from? Did they sail in from Abyssinia? Just silly kind of nonsense that pervaded the background to it. And now I think they're just totally grounded as an early medieval native inhabitants of northern Britain who rubbed shoulders with, traded with, intermarried with, and frequently warred with all of their neighbours, as was the way, and I think they're a lot more grounded now than ever they were.
Yeah, I completely agree. John, it seems silly asking you this question, but what's your favourite stone or artefact?
Oh, heavens.
Just one.
I was going to say just the one, or can I have a dozen? I can see why people would be tempted to go towards the big things that have just, sheer impact by their size, like Sweno Stone. It's monumentally big, fantastic. Or the carved intricacies of Nig or St Andrew's sarcophagus, or any of the big cross slabs. But for me, the quintessential thing that I suppose got me interested in the Picts, and which has sustained my interest throughout the years, has to be the symbols. So I'm going to go for what would be referred to as a Class 1 symbol stone. And even within that, there are so many wonderful and beautiful examples of it. But I'm going to go for the Ballantome symbol stone, which is up on Speyside. I'm not sure about the geology, but it's not something that's easy to carve. It's either metamorphic or igneous, so it's going to be fairly intractable, but it has a notched rectangle and Z-rod, and above that a crescent and V-rod. But whoever drew it out with a piece of charcoal or chalk or whatever, and then pecked the lines out and smoothed them, had incredible ability and incredible artistic flair. Little details like the upper terminal of the Z-rod. It's like an arrowhead or a spearhead, but it's been drawn out. It's got a bulbous shape that comes in, and it's been drawn out to this point that runs up the way, and it's just so elegant and dynamic. The sides of the notched rectangle are slightly, just very slightly concave, and again, it just gives the whole thing, it lifts it beyond just being a rectangle with a notch out it. It's got dynamic quality. It's just fabulous. I love it. So I'm going to take that one home under my arm, if that's okay.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant answer, and it kind of sums up just how varied the Pictish sculptural oeuvre is, really, isn't it?
Because, absolutely, and certainly, there are early notions. I don't know if there might still be some people putting forward the idea that this, the occurrence of these symbols from the south coast of Fife right the way up to the Shetland Islands, Buchan out the way to the Western Isles, were these itinerant people that had leather templates. And you look at that, think whoever carved the Ballantome one had artistic flair. And if you've got that, you don't need a template.
I totally agree. I mean, we've discussed this before, but you look at the canon of crescent and V-rods, and show me two that are exactly the same. I mean, there are some obviously that are similar, but
no,
there's license there.
Yes,
to carve the symbol, but do it your way.
Yeah, definitely.
definitely a love of the novel. Okay, next one is, if someone could only visit one site or museum, which one and why?
Oh, again, a tricky one here. I can see why some people might just opt for the National Museum of
Yeah.
Scotland in Edinburgh, because it has a very comprehensive and rich and large collection there. But for me, I'm going to stick with the symbol stone theme, and I'm going to say Dunrobin Castle Museum, because it is home to a superb collection. I think the best collection of Class 1 stones, if you want to call them that. There are a few fragments of cross slab in there as well, but predominantly the collection, I think it's into the high teens of symbol stones, and some of them are superb examples of their kind, again, with real artistic flair going into the delineation of the serpents and the mirrors and the salmon and the things like that on it. So I'm going to go for that one.
It's a great choice. I can't think of anywhere better to see those finely pecked lines.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, that's what stands out for
Yeah.
at Dunrobin.
And for just, it's worth saying as well, I think access to it is sort of, it's down in the grounds below the castle, and technically speaking, I think it's a sort of thing you can get to go visit later on when you've bought your ticket and gone round and looked at the four-poster beds and whatever else. For any of you viewers that are watching, it's worthwhile trying to blag your way into just saying, I want to go and look at the museum. I think I've maybe been round the castle once, but I've been in the museum 100 times, so it's worth trying.
And you blagged us all in, of course, for a Pictish Arts
yes.
Society. And of course, where else can you see a giraffe's neck coming out of the floor? I mean, it's got a bit of the John Soane's museum, doesn't it, in London, of that antiquarian collector sort of thing. But yeah, he certainly hoovered up all the Pictish stuff from that area into one place.
Interestingly, I think I'm right in saying that the National Museum of Scotland in Edinburgh has, as I said, such an amazing collection from all over Pictland, but I'm pretty certain they don't have a single stone from Sutherland. And that's because of the acquisitive dukes over the years who, if it turned up in their county and their backyard, they got first dabs on it, and then the NMS have nothing, I don't believe, from Sutherland.
I could believe it. Okay, on to the last one, the stinker. Yeah, this was my contribution to the list of questions. And that is, which lost stone or fragment would you most like to find? And I can't wait for this answer.
Well, again, I can see how people would say, oh, we need to have the missing panels from St Andrew's sarcophagus, or the bottom half of Conan Stone, or, there are so many amazing things that I would understand people wanting to see. But for me, again, I'm going to stick with a symbol stone. Church at Inveravon or Inveraan, I think they pronounce it locally. 4 Pictish stones there, now very accessible in the former porch at the vestibule at the front of the church. And the smallest one of the 4 is a tiny little block cut down into a building block, and it has this beautifully drawn out and incised head of a Pictish beast. And it is just the perfect example. The curves are sweet. I was looking at photographs and drawing of it this morning before I logged on with you, and the curves on the bill of the Pictish beast are just perfect. There's not one bit of it where you would think, oh, he's got a wee bit angular there, or what. It's just superb. And so I really want to see the rest of it to see if it's as good as the head, because I'm pretty sure it would have been, again, whoever did it knew their business. They had artistic flair in creating this perfect example of the symbol, and they had real skill in pecking and smoothing out just finely incised lines on, again, I'm pretty sure a metamorphic rock, which probably isn't the easiest to carve into. But for me, it's got to be that one.
Oh, I like it. It's, for me, my top 3 Pictish beasts are that one, Strathmartin, that's in the Methven, because again, although we've only got the top of it, you can tell that was beautiful. And the Muckle lost one from Linlathen.
Yeah, that's
from
right.
Cairngregg, which is quite a big stone. And again, it doesn't look like it was a very nice stone to carve. But
no,
but the lines and the design are just fantastic. Great choices, John. Well, listen, that's been great. Thanks for joining us today. It's fairly cheered me up I think we're on day 25 of constant rain here in Angus.
It's been my pleasure.
No, it's been great, John, and hopefully we'll see you talking again at the Pictish Art Society sometime very soon. Thanks, John.
Thank you very much.